Good evening, I'm Bob McKeown. Welcome to the Fifth Estate and a look into a Canadian dream that became a nightmare. Tonight we'll take you from the rinks of Brampton, Ontario to the arenas of the National Hockey League and then to an American penitentiary cell, side by side and often word by word with Mike Danton. He's the Canadian kid who went from prospect to prison, all because, it seems, of the malignant influence of a rogue agent named David Frost. Like many Canadian youngsters, Danton wanted to make it to the NHL. David Frost, first his coach, later his agent, always his controlling force, promised to deliver that dream. But along the way, it went tragically, shockingly, offside.
Hello.
Hello, this is a collect call from
Mike.
an inmate at the Santa Clara County Department of Corrections. To accept charges, press 0. This call
It is the week after Mike Danton's arrest for attempting to arrange a murder. And from a California jail, he makes a telephone call.
Hi. Yeah. Took you long enough.
At the other end of the line is Danton's longtime mentor and agent, David Frost. He is also, incredibly, the man Danton just tried to have killed.
I really have to make you understand this, okay? Because this is really critical. Everything's going to be okay, but it's got to go this way. And
In their jailhouse conversations, it's almost as if nothing has changed.
I'm gonna say some things to you, and we're gonna be careful, okay?
David Frost tells the 23-year-old Danton what to do, what to say, and how to say it.
You have to show emotion, basically. You can't compress it inside and say that you don't have any emotion for actually trying to hire somebody to do this.
So you tell them why I was thinking about it.
Do not mention any names when you do it.
There's a recurring theme in Frost's advice.
It is not an option to go to court.
Okay.
If we go to court, you're fucking done. And I mean done. 7 to 10, Mike, because of that. Okay? Are we clear?
Yeah.
And when they say goodbye, it's in a most unusual way for an NHL hockey player and his agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want me?
Yeah.
Say it.
Okay.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
It is just one strange episode in the even stranger story of the rise and demise of Mike Danton.
Gets it back, 5 seconds in the period. Barrow club trying to sneak in, breakaway for Mike Danton. Danton to the net, he shoots, and he scores!
How number 22 for the St. Louis Blues became U.S. federal inmate 10096-111. And the troubling role in it played by David Frost, his agent. But to understand that, you've first got to go back to where it all began, the Toronto suburb of Brampton. When Mike Danton grew up here, his last name was Jefferson. Things have never been easy for his parents, Steve and Sue. Up at dawn to stock their mobile canteens with sandwiches and coffee, the Jeffersons spend the rest of the day driving from one construction site to the next.
Now you're taking these burgers away and just leaving me with this, right?
I sometimes think, when am I going to wake up and this is going to be over? It's hard enough to get the dream to play in the NHL, but to have it all come down like that.
From the beginning, the NHL dream seemed to belong as much to Steve as to his son. He taught Mike to skate on an outdoor rink near their house. A little boy with big plans, according to his mom.
Even back then, grade 1, grade 2, he was talking about it. We had to do the wallpaper in his bedroom, all NHL hockey wallpaper, That's all he ever wanted to do, was play hockey.
By the time Mike Jefferson was 10 years old, he was attracting attention in minor hockey circles in Toronto, especially from a man named David Frost.
He was looking to put a hockey team together, and I guess he had been searching the rinks looking for players. And he approached Steve, I suppose, and offered to take Mike onto the team.
Jefferson eventually joined the Toronto Young Nationals, coached by the tough-talking Frost.
It was almost a Svengali kind of relationship. He was the czar, and he brought these kids in to almost the cult of Dave Frost.
Steve Simmons of the Toronto Sun was one of the first to follow Frost's career.
He was kind of a coach on the fringes who had, you know, sort of gone out and, for lack of a better word, accumulated kids from troubled homes or troubled situations, kids with talent, and they became his.
The Jeffersons admit their family wasn't perfect, but Sue says their troubles really began when Frost arrived.
Personally, I didn't like Dave. He was always very rude.
Rude in what way?
Just the way, disrespectful towards me, any adult.
In addition to Mike Jefferson, Frost's players included Mike's pal from Brampton, Sheldon Keefe. Another teammate was Joe Goodenow, son of Bob Goodenow, then head of the NHL Players Association. Steve Jefferson says the elder Goodenow became David Frost's second in command.
He was at the games, he would run the practices, he was in the dressing room before and after games.
Under Frost and Goodenow, the Young Nationals were a winning team, which kept Steve Jefferson happy. But his wife Sue saw another side of David Frost.
I was suspicious from day one with the actions of Dave and how Michael was changing. He wouldn't eat with us. He would leave at strange hours. You could see he was upset sometimes when he'd come home. I would try to find out what's wrong. He wouldn't talk. He would just go down to his room and be quiet.
And things went from bad to worse when Frost moved into the Jeffersons' neighborhood.
He was just a block away from us, and it would get to where Mike was spending more and more time and not even coming home. Even Christmas dinner, he would be allowed to come for dinner, but that was it. Dinner, an hour later, Dave would be at the door to pick him up.
No, wait a minute.
Get up and leave.
You're telling me that your son was only allowed to come and visit on Christmas Day for an hour?
He would come and eat and leave.
Why could you not walk up to that house down the block where David Frost lived and where your son spent so much time and say,
and remove him?
He's our son. Mm-hmm. We want him back.
Because at the snap of a finger, Dave would have him just walk out of your life like that.
There's their coach, David Frost. No-nonsense style coach.
When the Young Nationals played for the provincial championship,
Down by a goal, have the face-off and win the face-off, and Goodenow will let it rip. Scores!
The Jeffersons didn't know Frost had plans to jump to another team and to take his best players with him, including 15-year-old Mike. When Frost went to minor hockey headquarters in Toronto to arrange a release, his relationship with the Brampton boys was already well known.
There were stories emanating that he had these 3 or 4 players that he was very close to, and they were sort of his pride and joy, I gather.
John Gardner heads minor hockey in Toronto. He discovered a problem with the paperwork Frost submitted for himself and his players.
He was alleged to have forged the Toronto Young Nationals general manager's signature, and for that we suspended him indefinitely.
So David Frost was banned from hockey in Toronto. What he needed now was a place where he would be allowed to coach his boys. He found it here, 3 hours to the east, on the shore of Lake Ontario, in the community of Deseronto, population 1,900. In Deseronto, Ontario, they still remember the hockey season of 1996-97. A new junior team had come to the local arena, called the Quinte Hawks. In a small town, the Hawks were soon a very big deal.
Every night that we played at home, it was packed. It was always packed. The people just enjoyed every minute of it.
Chuck Morgan was the Hawks' trainer. He says the team began winning in mid-season. the day David Frost arrived with his Brampton boys, including 16-year-old Mike Jefferson. And how good were those guys?
They were phenomenal hockey players. They changed the whole outlook of a team that wasn't going anywhere and brought them to contenders for a championship their first year in the league.
That league didn't enforce Frost's Toronto suspension, and before long, he'd taken over coaching the Quinte Hawks with methods that were rarely polite.
He was an abrasive man. He was an angry man, and everybody was a little afraid of Dave Frost.
And that demeanor continued at the Bayview Inn, where the 30-year-old Frost shared room 22 with some of his Brampton boys, 2 older players, and 16-year-old Sheldon Keefe.
It was nothing for me to hear him verbally abuse them in the hallway. It was nothing for me to hear him screaming all the time.
Hotel manager Vicky Boutillier lived in the apartment next door. She says though Mike Jefferson boarded elsewhere, he spent much of his time in room 22, which was also a magnet for local teenage girls. Puck bunnies, the players called them.
I knew these girls from town, and you know, I just was fearful of, you know, the couches were tore apart and the, you know, cushions everywhere and tables were filled with garbage and overflowing ashtrays, and I mean, you know, there was condoms found.
And during these times, to your knowledge, where was David Frost?
With them there.
Boutillier says she repeatedly complained to the team, even to the police chief, but nothing ever changed.
I was actually given the statement at one point that this was how hockey was, and I didn't know anything about how hockey was, so I should just kind of mind my own business.
Trainer Chuck Morgan recalls another incident on the team bus that made him seriously question the relationship between David Frost and Mike Jefferson.
I do remember David one night calling Mike up from the back of the bus when Mike was just in his boxer shorts, but Dave had summoned Mike, saying that his neck was stiff and his shoulders were stiff. Dave's shoulders were stiff, and instructed Mike to massage his neck and his shoulders, which Mike did for probably half an hour, 40 minutes.
And had you ever seen anything like that before?
I had never seen anything like that before, and it really struck me as really strange that a young hockey player would do this in front of his teammates. But he was instructed to do it, so he did it.
At the rink in Deseronto, David Frost's winning streak was about to come to an end. He was standing on the Quinte bench during a game when one of his players made a mistake. It was one of the Brampton boys named Darryl Tiverin. As he headed off the ice in front of a capacity crowd, Frost drove his fist right into the player's mouth.
Darryl had a lot of blood in and around his mouth area, and he had a look of bewilderment on his face. By then, the fans in the arena were up in arms. They were screaming and yelling that David had punched Darryl.
It was headline news in Deseronto, but at first, both Frost and the player denied a punch was ever thrown. In the end, Frost pleaded guilty to assault and was suspended by the team. The Quinte Hawks lost in the playoffs and folded the next season. But by then, David Frost and the Brampton boys were long gone to various teams in the Ontario Hockey League, one of Canada's top junior leagues and a stepping stone to the NHL. No longer their coach, not yet their agent, Frost was still never far away. When Mike Jefferson played in Sarnia, Bonnie Millar was his landlady. She says Frost's calls and visits had an obvious impact on Mike.
And he didn't spend lengths of time in Michael's room, but it would be like 10, 15 minutes. But the thing is, the person that would walk down the stairs would be a totally different Mike Jefferson than went up. He wouldn't speak to you. He was just withdrawn and intense. And you're going, there's something not right here.
One day, Millar got a phone call from another Sarnia player who was also worried about Jefferson.
He said every day if he has a break at school, he calls his agent, talks to him on the phone. On his lunch, he calls his agent, talks to him on the phone. He goes, when we have practice, he goes, as soon as he rushes to be the first one out of the dressing room, when we go out, he's on the phone talking to his agent.
What's more, the player said, Jefferson routinely ignored his own coaches to follow signals from Frost.
He goes, he always looks in the corner where Mr. Frost is. He looks at him, and then he'll nod and give him a sign or whatever. So we go to the next game, and I watched, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Sarnia soon solved the problem, at least for itself, by trading Mike Jefferson to the Toronto St. Michael's Majors, where he was reunited with Sheldon Keefe and other Frost players.
Look at Mike Jefferson. Jefferson has skated out of the penalty box, and it's like a football scrum. He's dived on top of the pile.
But their pattern of behavior kept repeating. Jefferson and Keefe ignored St. Mike's teammates and coaches to take direction from Frost. Before long, St. Mike's had had enough too. This time the Brampton boys were traded to Barrie.
I didn't know much about it other than to ask our junior hockey writer at the time, well, why did they make this deal for a bad team to trade its best players away? Well, why do you do that? He said they wanted to get away from Frost.
The Toronto Sun's Steve Simmons found that Frost was one of hockey's dirty secrets.
Everybody you talked to had concerns about what was the relationship between Dave and the kids. How far did it go? Where did it extend to? Why did the kids act differently around him than they acted around everyone else? Why couldn't they mix with their teammates? Why weren't they accepted by anyone? Why was everyone in hockey bothered by his presence?
Even when Frost's boys led the Barrie Colts to the Ontario Hockey League title, there were reports the team was rife with dissension. Their best players, Jefferson and Keefe, called a cancer in the dressing room.
I think there was a lot of whispering going on, but hockey can be a very quiet world, and I think people were either dealing with this in the background or not dealing with it at all.
But back at the family home, the one with the mobile canteens in the driveway, the promise of the future still beckoned.
Welcome to the NHL's entry draft.
When Mike Jefferson's name was called at the NHL draft by the Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, it was the moment that all dreamed of. Mike's first contract was for about $500,000 a year. David Frost, it seemed, had done exactly what he had promised. So that summer, when Frost asked if the Jeffersons' 13-year-old son Tom could visit his brother and the others at Frost's cottage near Kingston, Ontario, it sounded like a good idea until Tom returned home.
He was withdrawn, started going downstairs, taking his meals downstairs, just like Michael did. And I just brought him up to the table, and I said, no, I just said, there's something wrong here. You're going to talk about it. Sit down, let's get into it.
What did he say?
He just started telling me about what went on. Little things at first. Apparently there's a pecking order. If you're the youngest, you have to wait till the last, and he didn't. He took his pancakes first from the pile, and when he did that, Dave spit in them and made him eat it. Climbing a tree at gunpoint over the lake, Dave would be shooting at him, telling him to go farther, go farther. It's just a BB rifle gun, not an actual shotgun. Yeah.
Then, Sue says, her 13-year-old described some other things.
He just told me that they tied him up to a bed, duct tape, and taking pictures of him like this, everyone laughing. He was made to dance for hours naked in front of everybody on a table.
When Tom told you all of this, what did you do?
I wanted to phone the police. I wanted to go see Dave. But how do you prove all of this?
But months later, the Jeffersons got the photographs.
Tom was taped naked to the back of a bunk bed with duct tape. There's another picture of him naked. Dave Frost behind him staring at his rear end. I believe there was one with him pointing a rifle at him.
Pointing a rifle at Tom?
Yeah.
Duct taped to a bed at the age of 13?
That's right. Yeah.
David Frost has denied that anything wrong took place. And under oath, his players, including Tom's brother Mike, backed him up, blaming the episode on young Tom himself. And the story that could justify a 13-year-old being hogtied with duct tape and having a gun pointed at him is what?
That Tom enjoyed it, he was having fun, laughing, and it was initiation.
Initiation into?
Dave's world.
This time the Jeffersons did go to the police, who opened an investigation into the allegations of abuse at David Frost's cottage. But the outcome would be the same.
The Crown Attorney didn't pursue the case. There would have been a cottage full of older kids than Tom. They're all sticking to one story. It would have been very hard for Tom in court to prove this case. They would have torn him apart. Why put him through that?
It was after that the 21-year-old Mike Jefferson changed his last name to Danton and severed all ties with his family. He reportedly was led to believe his parents were trying to have him charged with abuse and wanted some of his NHL money. Steve and Sue deny that, but their son hasn't spoken to them in the past 4 years. And though the Jeffersons didn't know it yet, the hardest part was just beginning. They should have been the best of times for the young man wearing number 22 for the St. Louis Blues.
Up the middle, Danton skates in and ties the game.
Since being traded from New Jersey, the 23-year-old, now known as Mike Danton, had become a favorite of fans and players alike. And things were looking up off the ice, too. Like many single pro athletes, Danton had a number of romantic interests.
Now, what does your shirt say here, Katie?
It says, "We want Danton."
One of his girlfriends was 19-year-old Katie Wolfmeyer, featured as fan of the game at this Blues playoff.
He's also hot, right?
Mm-hmm. He's gorgeous.
What a great reason to like a player.
And back in Canada, Danton's longtime mentor David Frost also seemed to be finding acceptance, certified as an official player agent by the National Hockey League Players Association, run by his old minor hockey associate Bob Goodenow. According to the NHLPA, certification assures that agents meet standards of professional conduct. Its website lists about 150 agents, lawyers, MBAs, former players like the great Bobby Orr. Then there's David Frost. When David Frost applied to the NHLPA, he was still under suspension from minor hockey in Toronto for forgery. He'd been criminally convicted for attacking one of his own players in Deseronto, and he'd recently been the subject of a police investigation into allegations of abuse involving 13-year-old Tom Jefferson. Yet in a statement to the Fifth Estate, the Players Association says it examined Mr. Frost's personal history and qualifications and concluded he met their requirements. So Frost was certified as an NHL agent.
And only one person questioned it, me.
Toronto Sun columnist Steve Simmons began asking, why?
How does someone who has been banned from 2 hockey leagues, and well, we have a litany of things that we can throw at this guy, how does he get certification? Only one answer. Bob Goodenow wanted him certified.
Whatever Frost's connections were in Canada, he apparently had lost touch with what was going on in St. Louis. Sometime early in 2004, Frost's client and protege Mike Danton began looking for someone to do him a favor, a big one.
Working at Roxy's one night, and Danton came through. He came through in like a white Escalade, Cadillac Escalade.
Ron Jones was a bouncer at the local gentleman's club called Roxy's, where they recognized the man behind the wheel of the white caddy.
So Vinny was like, man, I know him. He said he played for the St. Louis Blues. That's Mike Danton.
Danton became a Roxy's regular, sharing free hockey tickets, and then sharing his problems. He told Ron Jones he owed $25,000 to someone who would soon be staying at his apartment.
He said, if I show you a picture of somebody and I tell you that I want this person, something to happen to this person for $10,000, what would you say? I was like, for one, man, I say, what are you talking about? He kept on saying, beating around the bush. Well, I want something done.
Now, did you have any sense of what he meant when he said, I want something done?
Something done, just common sense. If he show you a picture of somebody and he say, I want something done to this guy, that's what it means.
Is this the fellow whose picture he showed you?
Yeah, a dude named Frost. That's a face you don't...
And did he tell you who this guy is?
Yeah, that's his agent.
And he told you that?
Yeah.
With David Frost about to arrive in St. Louis to stay with him, Mike Danton began leaving messages on Ron Jones' cell phone.
Ronnie, it's Mike Danton calling here. Just want to let you know that he'll be there between like 9 and 12. So that'd probably be the best time. And like I said, I'll be over there a while. And I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. All right, buddy?
Jones now says he wanted no part of a murder and ignored Danton's calls.
Hey, Ronnie, it's Mike calling. If you can't do this, you can let me know so I can try and find another way to do this, because this is getting real serious. He's still at my place tonight and tomorrow night by himself. So he's not about life and death. All right, I'll try and get in touch with you next time.
When those voicemails went unanswered, Mike Danton made another phone call, this time to the girl in the We Want Danton t-shirt, Katie Wolfmeyer. Another 19-year-old named Justin Levi Jones was with Wolfmeyer at the time.
She said that she had a friend that needed a favor, and so I asked her to elaborate, see what was going on. And she said that Mike was having problems with someone.
That was when Justin Levi Jones' cell phone began to ring. Though he'd only known Wolfmeyer for a few hours, and though he told her he was a dispatcher for the local police, he soon found himself on the phone with Mike Danton, who wanted a man taken care of in St. Louis while he was playing hockey in California.
And he was all secretive and whispering on the phone. He was just very strange to talk to. And eventually I said, taken care of, you want him beaten up? And he said, no, taken care of permanently.
And who was it that he wanted you to kill?
This is where it gets even more bizarre. He said that a man was coming from Canada to kill him, and that another acquaintance of his is giving him this information.
Danton told Jones the job had to be done before he and the Blues returned from their road trip 2 days later.
He said he wanted it done in his apartment. They wanted the body to be left there so it could be found when he came home.
Now, how much money were you going to be paid?
He had mentioned the total of $10,000.
Jones recorded those conversations on his cell phone and played them for his boss, the police chief, who called in the FBI. Within hours, Jones was wired for sound, given a disabled gun to make him look like a professional hitman, and sent to meet Katie Wolfmeyer, who would guide him to Mike Danton's apartment, ostensibly to kill the hitman from Canada.
For a while, it was quiet in the car, and everybody's nervous. I'm on edge because of what we're about to do, and I just started random conversation about it and asking her about Danton and her attraction to him and her relationship, and she said he had her phone number and called her whenever he wanted to see her, but she didn't have his. She said, I better get his phone number after this.
When they reached the gated complex and Wolfmeyer had delivered Jones to Danton's apartment, the FBI had what it wanted. At a prearranged spot, agents surrounded the car and arrested Katie Wolfmeyer for conspiring with Mike Danton to arrange a murder. Then the FBI returned to Danton's apartment. They still had no idea about the identity of the man staying there. At first, he claimed to be Mike Danton's father, but then he admitted he was really David Frost. John Jimenez of the FBI.
I said, Dave, one of two things is the situation here. Either you're a bad guy because you came down here to kill Mike Danton, or you're a good guy and that means that somebody was being sent to kill you.
The FBI took Frost to the local police station, where according to Jimenez, he acknowledged he and Danton had recently argued and that his client owed him money. Later on, with Frost's help, the agents located Danton in San Jose and arrested him at the airport as he was about to board a plane back to St. Louis. It was headline news in Canada and the U.S.
The National.
Mike Danton of the St. Louis Blues was picked up in San Jose this morning. The FBI says Danton claims he had reason to fear for his life and that he tried to hire someone to kill the person threatening him.
I was a mess. I ran upstairs. I said to my wife, I said, Mike's been arrested. He tried to kill Dave Frost. I knew exactly what had happened.
But almost as soon as Mike Danton was in police custody, this already bizarre saga got stranger yet. From jail in California, Danton began to reach out.
Hello, this is a collect call from
Mike.
To none other than the man he was behind bars for trying to have killed, David Frost.
Press 0.
Hey, Mike. Yeah. Listen, do I have to worry about my safety anymore? No, you don't.
The taped calls, obtained by the Fifth Estate, show Frost quickly reclaiming his role as Danton's mentor.
I want you to listen, and I don't want you to ever think anything different than what I'm about to tell you. Okay. Okay, are you ready for this? Yeah. It's an absolute, and I know it doesn't matter, but it's an absolute impossibility to win this case in the criminal court. Okay. Okay? It won't happen. You'll lose. You'll go 7 to 10. Okay. Okay.
The FBI says Frost admitted Danton owed him money. But here, Frost tells Danton to claim he's all paid up.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. And we have been for a long time. Okay. Okay, so it takes away their motive. Right. Right.
And Frost says to get psychiatric counseling rather than prison, he's got to pin everything on his mother and father.
It started in the core of your body, in the core of your head, at a very young age. Whenever you first seen the fights, whenever you first seen the beating, the fact that she never took you out of the house to the grandparents, the fact that you watched him drunk in arenas. And the real truth about this is the psychiatrist and this lawyer have talked and said that's how you get somebody off, when you can show that it started at a very early age.
Then Frost moves from legal advice to public relations, arranging interviews from his client's jail cell. Danton obeys, again, blaming his parents.
My earliest memories involve Steve and Sue Jefferson consistently on a regular basis abusing alcohol and drugs. This abuse occurred as early as I can remember and also continued until the time I left the household.
The Jeffersons say whatever their problems, those are exaggerations to deflect attention from David Frost.
We're a normal family. We've had our problems in the past. We struggled, you know. We raised our kids. We loved them. We fed them. We put them into sports to keep them off the streets, give them a future, keep them healthy. You know, there was no abuse. Dave says that I neglected my son and abandoned him. That's crazy. Abandoned your son.
We didn't all grow up with the Cleavers, and clearly this is a house where there was some trouble. I don't believe there was the trouble that the Frost people say there was.
In the end, Mike Danton's lawyers rejected a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, though it was apparently considered. Danton pleaded guilty to attempting to arrange a murder and was sentenced not to counseling as Frost suggested, but to 7.5 years in a U.S. federal prison. Because of that plea bargain, Danton never explained in court why he wanted to kill David Frost, whom he had obeyed and followed for so long. Was it the money, or was it something else? Why do you think he tried to hire someone to kill David Frost?
To be free, to have a life of his own.
The light bulb must have gone off, and finally he wants to distance himself from Dave. And the only way he knew how to distance himself was to try and eliminate him.
He could have said, Dave, you're fired.
I don't think you can say that in these circumstances. The hold was that tight. The relationship was that controlling. This wasn't necessarily about an agent and a player. This is about a guy controlling someone's life. And it's one of those, I am going to create a hockey player, and it's going to be my mastery, and I'm going to be the genius, and he's my puppet. And the puppet struck back in this instance, and the puppet who never thought for himself at any point in time made one decision in his life on his own, and it got him in jail.
In one of their jailhouse calls, David Frost pointedly asks Mike Danton why he wanted him dead.
I don't know. Well, you got to tell me, because that's what's going to lend to it.
It's a glimpse of a confused and desperate young man.
Everything the same. I didn't know. Obviously everything started coming down at the same time. Just hockey was going down and fucking everything, all the same shit.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, come on, read into it, man.
Okay, I know, but like, things were never that bad, right?
Oh, I don't know. I just wanted you. I don't know.
You just wanted what?
I don't know. I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to say it over here right now.
Well, try, you know.
I just wanted fucking to do things, you know? And things weren't fucking good between that person, and it was like I felt like there was no other way.
Despite all that's happened, David Frost is still very much involved in hockey, still a certified agent, and a key figure behind the scenes with the Junior A Pembroke, Ontario Lumber Kings. He refused numerous requests for an interview, so we went looking where he can usually be found, at a Lumber Kings game. Mr. Frost, I'm Bob McKeown from the CBC. I think you know we've been trying to get you to talk to us, and I just wanted to let you know why. Frost scoffs at the notion he was the intended murder victim. Why do you think he wanted to kill you?
You have a good day. When Mike Danton gets back, Mike Danton will talk, and I'll talk. Well, it's real clear.
You know,
as soon as we're back.
We have heard the conversations between you and him in jail, and pretty clearly you thought he was going to kill you.
No, I didn't.
Well, you know, we'll play them.
You know,
we've spoken.
We'll play them.
The tapes.
I haven't heard them.
We've spoken.
No, I haven't heard them.
We've spoken to a fellow named Ron Jones, who was the first person. He's the first person Mike tried to get to kill you. He still insists that when Mike Danton is transferred back to Canada, the truth will come out. And he now blames everything on the FBI.
He cannot expose the government for what really went on until he's on our soil.
You were talking about the U.S. government? And what would be exposed?
You'll see. You'll see. And it's a much bigger story than you think. It's because the FBI lied. They lied. And when we expose them for what they did.
You know, listening to all those tapes, reading all those transcripts, it's hard to see where they lied.
Maybe.
Let me give you one more question to think about.
I'm not gonna listen.
In that conversation, you talked about how much he needs counseling. If he needed counseling so much, why in the previous 10 years didn't you arrange it? Why did you wait until he was in jail?
He was getting counseling. You don't even know.
You're right, I don't.
Yeah, you're fucking right, you don't.
What, can you explain to what extent he was getting counseling?
No, I can't. But I can tell you what I can do.
Yeah.
The moment Mike Danton gets back, the moment he and I are going to sit down with somebody and do an exclusive.
Could we arrange to speak with him?
Name?
Bob McKeown.
Bob, if it's not you, then I will make sure that it's your competitor.
We are going to do the story, yeah.
Okay. You know what? I can tell you something about me. I'll never be intimidated by you people.
Yeah.
You can do whatever the fucking story.
I don't want you to be intimidated by us. I just want to learn what you believe.
But I believe I'm there. Yeah. I know what happened, and it's way beyond what any media outlet has ever even come close to. They don't even know what happened the night it happened. They don't know what really took place. They don't know.
Well, there are a lot of transcripts, Mr. Frost, and a lot of taped conversations that we have access to, and it's pretty clear when you piece it together what happened.
Well, if you think that, I can tell you what, wait my ass with what you think, or what Joe Public thinks.
Remarkably, disturbingly, this story ends where it began. The life of Mike Danton once again inextricably tied to David Frost. In hockey, perhaps, for better, but in so many other ways, it seems, for worse.
Hey, Mick.
Yeah?
Listen, do I have to worry about my safety anymore?
No, you don't. I gotta go.
Hey.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Yeah.
Say it.
I love you.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
you.